Hey, Ronny Dahl, Four Wheeling Australia. All the gear and no idea. I think most of us know what that means, and we'll get to that in a sec. All the problems, but then provide you with the solution so you don't end up like these guys. You don't want to be these guys. There are 5 signs that someone may have all the gear, no idea, and the first one is the catalog car. Handing your keys over to an accessory store and basically asking for every single possible four-wheel drive and camping modification or accessory you can bolt to a vehicle with no thought, no idea what they're actually going to end up with. I want a reps car. That's what they may as well say. And the second one, the grossly overloaded four-wheel drive. Now, I've been there myself before. I think we've all been there, all the gear and no idea. But a grossly overweighted four-wheel drive is bound for driveline stress and also bound to get bogged at the nearest beach. We're talking about those four-wheel drives with the boat on the roof, caravan behind it, and just all this stuff on it that they probably won't even use. That guy's definitely got a serious case of Adgani. Hey, wait, that's my car. And the third one, the over-the-top lifted rig with gnarly tires, say 37-inch tires that are like competition extreme tires, meant for an off-road competition. However, this thing is out in the middle of nowhere, out in the remote country desert. Remote touring requires long-range fuel tanks, lots of water storage, self-sufficient, spare parts, a tourer, not a bloody monster truck. Then we have the flip side, the heavy, stretched, overloaded tourer on a gnarly track. It shouldn't be there. Constantly getting stuck, winched, and damaged. Not the place for that type of vehicle. And let's look at vehicles that don't suit the real hardcore rocky terrain. That's not meant to be there. Now that will be interesting. I want to see that, but it shouldn't be out there. And number 5, the Frankenstein build. Unresearched four-wheel drive accessory parts slapped on a vehicle that just don't match each other and either work against each other or just don't work at all. And those are the signs that someone has all the gear and no idea. Adgani. So how do we avoid this? There are some simple steps you can take, but there are also some clever ideas that I have for you. So let's get to that right now. Number 1, what are you using your car for? Is it a daily driver? This is important. Is it a 50% tourer? Is it a 100% tourer? 50% tourer is a tourer that's destined for the highway, towing a caravan, that kind of thing. Might go off-road, might drop the caravan off at caravan park, might go down to the beach for a drive. The 100% tourer does not necessarily tow a caravan. It is set up, it is a home on wheels, it goes to vast remote places. Those are two very different beasts. How much of your tourer is a tourer? Is it a tough truck? Is it a weekend warrior? What is it? Because that's going to factor in on what you need and what you should put on your vehicle. Because there are many things a daily driver would not want to put on their vehicle, but there are also many things a dedicated tourer would want to put on their vehicles and not have to deal with taking on and off their vehicle. For example, if you have a daily driver with a big boxy rooftop tent on it and you use that vehicle 3 times, 4 times a year, you go camping, think of all the fuel you're burning, think of all the extra wear and tear on the suspension driving around just on the roads by having all that weight on your roof just to use it 4 to 5 times a year. But say a dedicated tourer constantly driving and camping, that can have a roof tent on it the whole time because it's convenient, the vehicle's being used for that purpose. And you can take that through a lot of different things. For example, suspension. Why would you want to have, say, a 6-inch lift on a daily driver? It's just not the smartest thing to do in my opinion. Even for touring, you wouldn't want that suspension on that vehicle. But a weekend warrior, if you want to have some fun, you want to go some rock hopping, fine. That's probably where that suspension is suited. It's not suited for a tourer, it's not suited for a daily driver. You probably want more like just a standard 2-inch lift for a daily driver, or a standard 2-inch to 3-inch lift for a tourer. Another big one, tires. The 100% tourer can justify having mud tires because they might be going through all kinds of shallow rock, all that kind of stuff. And mud tires are good for sand. We've established that in the channel a lot earlier on. A 50% tourer, I don't really think should really put mud tires on that vehicle in my opinion. It should just have all-terrains. It's mainly on the highway. All-terrains are a lot quieter, more comfortable, will last longer, don't have flat spots on really cold mornings like mud tires sometimes do. Also, a daily driver. Would you want mud tyres on your daily driver? Yeah, it looks cool, it looks tough, but it's not really the tyre you want to have on a daily driver. If your tyre size is quite large, on an automatic, you may never be able to use 6th gear. I had this in a Hilux once before, and I wanted to go back to a smaller tyre if I was going to keep it. I was also going to go to all-terrain tyres. IFS vehicle, automatic, 6-speed, if you put 33s on that, and it normally has 30-inch tyres on it, say goodbye to 6th gear, say goodbye to good fuel economy. Weekend warrior, you only use it for that? Sure, it can be more justified then. 2 spares on your vehicle. The highway tourer, the 50% tourer, 1 spare. 1 spare, more fuel, why not? The 100% dedicated tourer, I would suggest 2 spares for that one. Weekend warrior, daily driver, 1 spare. You don't need to carry the 2, which means you probably don't need that rear bar on the back. That's another thing. You're adding weights. Is it going to serve a purpose? What are you using your car for? That is the main fundamental thing you should base the whole build around. I know that people just want everything on the car, but just think about that first. If you want everything on the car, go for it. But I'm just putting it out there. Before getting a vehicle changing mod or a camp changing mod, definitely take your vehicle out for a day drive or an overnighter. And that's to realize and focus on what you're actually changing. Why you're doing it, how it's gonna work, and what if? What if I went something different to what I'm already thinking about? What if I stuck with my swag instead of going for that rooftop? If I stick with the swag and I have a base camp, I don't have to pack up my swag to go for a day drive. However, if I go to rooftop tent, if I want to go and explore the tracks or head out with the mates, I've got to pack my tent up while everyone else gets to leave their stuff around. That's just one example of something to think about. Or perhaps you have your 32-inch tires, but you really want muddies that are 33s and you want a 3-inch lift so you can accommodate for those wheels and get a bit more height so you can tackle that line instead of going that line. Maybe consider, what if I didn't do it? Well, I just pick better lines. And if I do it, what's going to happen then? Well, I'm going to be paying for more fuel, the car's going to be a little bit laggy, when I'm going downhill it's going to roll a bit faster, maybe you have an automatic vehicle, is it really a good idea to go one size bigger when this size already works? Those are the things you need to think about. Once you've done the mod, then you head out again for a shakedown, just to understand how the vehicle behaves now, or perhaps what is it like camping out of my rooftop tent? Is the mattress thick enough? Is it good enough? Can you close everything in the tent that you expected? And are you warm enough? Your swag might have been warmer than your roof tent, or maybe it's the other way around. You won't know until you do a shakedown. It's ideal because then you can work out how to get more comfortable for your longer trip. And don't get me wrong, a shakedown should not be looked at as a chore. It should be looked at, you're heading out anyway. It's an excuse to get out and enjoy yourself. And while you're out there enjoying yourself, discover what your car needs, discover what you need, discover what you don't need. Something very obvious to many of us out there, but many of us do not actually do this, and that's called research the actual item. And one of the main reasons for that is you head out on a camping trip, on a driving trip with some mates, and someone has something on the vehicle and you want that. I want that. That is awesome. I want that on my car. Do your research first, because it may not fit your vehicle. Who actually fits that item? Can you fit it yourself? How much does it cost? Those are all basic things that you're going to look for anyway. But there are more things to look at. Where is it made? What is the support if something goes wrong with it? What is the warranty? If I can't get that exact thing, what is the alternative? What is similar to that that may in fact be better? Let's take it one step further from research. Now you need to ask real people the questions. They're the ones that are going to tell you what you need to know, because they're the ones that are using it, or maybe they're not using it, and that's my point right here. When we are focusing on a product that we want, we're always going to think of all the positive things. Oh, I can do this, it can do that. And you ask your mate who has that item, and they're like, yeah mate, it's bloody great. Oh, what's the best thing about this? What do you use it for? What can it do? They're going to tell you all the positive things, all the amazing things it can do, and all the amazing ways it's changed their life. Probably going a little bit overboard there. What you should do is ask them, what's the worst part about that item? Because they will have something, they will have a con. And that con might be very minor to them, but it might be massive con for you. It might be the whole pack-up time, if it's a roof tent again, or Say there's a canopy, oh yeah, it's great, but it's too heavy. You know, you got to ask about those things. Ask about how often they actually use it. Someone may have bought an awning that's huge, it's massive, but there's a lot of work in putting it down. So you ask them, how often do you use this incredible huge awning? And they might say, oh, not very often, because it takes a lot of time to set up. So that's a good indication that maybe I should do a bit more research and see what other products are out there. Because a freestanding awning might cost more, but if you're going to save a couple of $100 to get something that you've got to set up and do a lot of work for that you may not use that often, are you really saving money? Unless you're using it. Let's say an awning costs $2,000. Each time you open that awning, the first time you open it, that is a $2,000 shade. The second time you open it, it's a $1,000 shade, and so on and so forth, if you get what I'm saying. It's like buying a coffee machine for your car. By the time you're done, an inverter, the coffee machine and all that, your first coffee is probably going to cost you about $3,000 to $5,000. Your second coffee, half that. The third coffee, a third of that. You get my drift? Now, of course, not everyone only uses their inverter, their 2000 watt inverter, just to run a coffee machine, but many do. All the gear, no idea. Prioritize and budget your build. Many of us out there, we go the wrong way around our vehicle because we're not really foreseeing where the vehicle is going to end up. And that is a problem with all the gear and no idea, because you just keep adding stuff on. Frankenstein build, that's one of those things. For example, you put your suspension and tires on first. You don't have a GVM because you didn't think you needed it at the time. And then later, all of a sudden you do need it, so now you got to redo the suspension. So that money you spent there, you got to spend again. Not just in the parts, but also the labor. And then there's also the bull bar. You may end up getting an aluminium bull bar, and then you're deciding, man, I want a steel bull bar that's winch compatible. There are a lot of those things. I know they might seem quite obvious, but to many they're actually not. Is it worth you buying that $2,000 inverter, or is it worth you spending that $2,000 on fuel and go on one epic trip and create memories and experiences instead? In other words, what's most important at that particular time? It all comes down to your needs. Just prioritize and budget your build. One of the main things, understand that you don't actually need it all. Those are some funny words coming from you, considering that you have all the gear and then some on your vehicle. It may seem a bit funny coming from me, yes, but I use my vehicle day in, day out for this kind of stuff. I live and breathe four-wheel driving. I have a YouTube channel about it. That's pretty much all my vehicles do. So you can bugger off, mate. I mainly use those cars just for camping and four-wheel driving. I don't really daily drive them. 90% of people will not use their vehicles solely for four-wheel driving and camping. Many for daily drivers, many for a 50% tourer. Perhaps 10% of us out there that would use it for a dedicated tourer, or they're fly in, fly out. They don't use their car much. This is their dedicated four-wheel drive for when they come back R&R. In some sense, having two cars, maybe got a cheap runaround, that car's going to spend way less money on for fuel. Whereas your big four-wheel drive, it's going to be sucking the juice. And then we go back to the daily driver. If you have a daily driver with all that stuff on it, man, you're paying a lot for fuel. Sometimes you might actually be better off having another cheaper car, or mods you can take off your vehicle so that you're not burning fuel, wind resistance, all those kind of things. And extra wear and tear on your vehicle as well. There's a lot to take in. Conclusion. What are the basic needs for your setup, for your vehicle, for your camping style, for your four-wheel driving style? Work that out, and then you have your baseline. From there, just carefully think and then increase your build, increase what you want to do to your camp setup as you go, so it doesn't go over the top all of a sudden. And to all those people who are the classic example number one, the catalog cars, don't change what you're doing, because those catalog cars, that is turning the wheels on the four-wheel drive industry. Do you have a friend that suffers from outganny? Or maybe you do, all the gear and no idea. Share this with them. It's going to help them.